Welcome back to the People section of the 9th Lineal Justin and Tyler Movie Awards, our movie awards for 2022. And in this video, we are going to be looking at our best actors of 2022. In the same vein as we do directors as well as actresses, we each give our 3 honorable mentions and then go back and forth for number 3, number 2, and our number 1 best actors of 2022.
Okay, so my 3 honorable mentions are Ethan Hawke for A Body of Work.
Okay.
Mark Rylance, or is it Rylance?
Rylance.
For A Body of Work, although leaning more towards one specific movie, but he got in this in part because of having a second movie, which I'll get into. And then honorable mention number 3 is Nicolas Cage for The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent. So I probably won't spend a whole lot of time on these because I actually don't think like the dudes put in the best work this year. These are good performances. But Ethan Hawke, he was good in The Black Phone, but I don't think he was given enough to be truly memorable. But he killed it with what he had. He was the best part in Raymond and Ray. Like, he was the more complicated character. He got angry, he got sad, he was really good. And he was apparently in The Northman, but I don't remember.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
I don't remember.
Yep.
But he was in there. But obviously I don't know. But anyway. And then, so Mark Rylance, mostly as Leonard in The Outfit, more of like a low-key. I like low-key performances. Like, I always mention this, but Tom Hardy in The Drop. Just a low-key, but there's something bubbling under the surface. That's what Leonard is. And when it comes to the surface, you're like, oh shit, because it's earned, because he's just like this old man that you think's like in something that he shouldn't be in. But then he was also the weirdo creep in Bones and All.
Yeah.
What the hell was going on with him in that?
Oh boy.
That was a fun performance.
It was.
Speaking of fun performances, I queued myself up there. Nicolas Cage as a version of himself, although obviously not himself. I mean, dude, you
basically
let this guy off the rails, you get shit like this.
Right.
And that's what I mean, as much as I think Pig was his career best performance from what I've seen, I still love seeing that weird, crazy Nicolas Cage.
Was he trying to tell us in this movie that he has paranoid schizophrenic like moments where he's talking to a version of himself? Was this like a deeply self-admitting?
No, he projects multiple versions of himself into reality. There's no pretending or thinking.
Fair.
They appear.
He is very powerful.
Yeah. If Nicolas Cage's other movies would have came out, there's a very real chance he would have been number 1 2 years in a row.
Right.
You know, because like I was really entertained by it, but what was I amazed to the number 1 spot? No.
Right.
Which is funny because we talked about this earlier today. But if you would have had those 2 movies, I would have been doing the same thing I was last year, going like Nicolas Cage number 1. But I couldn't. But still, dude, I've seen like 160 movies. You know, he's 4th.
Yeah.
Right. He's like the top dog honorable mention. So
it's pretty good.
Yeah. There's nothing. Good job, Nicolas Cage. If the rest of the world is turning on you, I don't know if they are, maybe they aren't, but like, I'm with you. I'm always with you. You always have a home with me.
My honorable mentions for Best Actor in 2022 are Timothy Chalamet for Bones and All, which Tyler literally just called off camera.
He's going to be in every year that he's in something.
Exactly.
I'm calling this. I am calling it.
Christian Bale for A Body of Work.
Yeah.
As well as Paul Dano, technically for A Body of Work, although one of the movies I didn't actually see. I just know he plays a central role in it. So, I was going to say Timothy Chalamet, Bones and All, one of the primary characters. I wish he would have had a little more to play off of in the female lead aside from him, which her name is escaping me right now. She was really good in... Do you remember the movie that I talked about, Words on Bathroom Walls?
Yes, I remember.
She's really good in that movie.
Yeah, I remember looking her up and seeing that. I was like, okay, cool.
And so when I saw that she was in this opposite Timothée Chalamet, I'm like, I'm very excited for this.
Sure.
And I didn't think she had quite the same degree of performance in this movie that she had in Words on Bathroom Walls. But Timothée Chalamet, I think, had every bit as good a performance as I've seen from him with the material that they're given. Like it's a certain flavor of material that you're given in this movie, but I just think he's masterful. Like I just think he's so good.
It's hard to compete. Like I don't think I'd put him in mine anywhere ever, even though I do like him. But it's hard to compete with Chalamet, and it's weird to say that because the guy's like 12.
It's true.
Like he's so good at 20 something.
Yeah, he's somewhere in the 20s.
He's like top of the class, man. Like even though I don't show him the same love, I admit that he is so very good.
Yeah. Christian Bale, like I say, is a body of work as well. So obviously he was Gore the God Butcher in Thor: Love and Thunder. He plays one of the central roles in Amsterdam, which movie we talked about earlier. He was also in a movie called The Pale Blue Eye, and this is one that we talked about earlier today, is a movie that we're going to count technically for next year, because while it did come out right at the tail end of this year, it was only in very limited release. But it's getting a wide streaming release today, literally today. So that's going to be a movie that winds up counting for next year. But again, technically, it was a movie that he was in that did quote-unquote release at one point this year. Obviously, we haven't seen it because we're treating it for next year. But he was in that as well. It's a very solid body of work. He's really good. It's just in general, but as he's really good as Gore the God Butcher. I did not give him enough credit at the outset of watching that movie. That I think he was just really, really good in that role. It can be a little tonally all over the place, but the character is that way because the characters totally lost their mind.
Yeah.
So I understand it. And in Amsterdam, again, I may have had my issues with that movie and thought that it wasn't what it could have been, but at his performance in that movie in a vacuum, he's given a character, and my God, he's going to play that character. And I think that's something that you have to certainly credit somebody for, especially when they're doing it at the level of a Christian Bale. And Paul Dano, this is almost, of course, entirely it is entirely, in my case, for the Batman. I think another 10 to 15% more Dano in that movie.
Yeah.
I would have liked it even more because I really think there's a lot more to explore that could have been explored with that character.
Yeah.
That and not to say that obviously what we got was great, but I would have liked to have seen more exploration with that character, more alliteration from that character. Like I would have. I think the movie would have benefited from 10 to 15% more Paul Dano, and he falls just short on the top 3 this year.
Yeah, he was the best acting performance in the Batman, I think, by far. Even though he's not on my list. He was great. Alright, so my number 3, we're gonna go right back to Christian Bale. I just called an audible. I actually had him number 1. Wow. But I thought about it, I don't know that I want to give him number 1 on this year. Okay, so for some context, Christian Bale is one of my favorite actors. When I first started seriously getting into movies, because I'm kind of like a late bloomer, I didn't start until I was 17, 8, I don't know what year. Christian Bale was my first favorite actor once I started seriously getting into movies. Him and Denzel Washington. I wanted to give Christian Bale number 1, but then as you were talking about him, I thought, I'm just kind of forcing it to number 1. 3 is a great place to be, but I don't think this is his powerhouse performances. Right. I've probably not shown him enough love in previous years for certain roles that he did, but I don't want to rectify that by showing him too much love for this. Look, but look, the dude is great as Gore. He was the best part of that movie.
Yes.
Amsterdam, he was also the best part of that movie.
I probably agree with that too.
So I guess I can kind of just leave it at that. He's number 3, even though he was, up until just now, number 1. But I think I feel more confident moving my mind, moving it around a little bit. So Christian Bale is number 3 for body of work.
You've done it multiple times in the awards now. That's a move of high integrity.
I got so much integrity, you have no idea.
Because you sat there and you were like, I'm forcing this.
Yeah.
And yeah, that is a move of high integrity. I appreciate it.
If I would have seen The Pale Blue Eye, I could have probably have put him number 1 and felt really good about it. The fact that he isn't Hollywood's mascot is like a tragedy, because if you ever listen to him talk about stuff, he is so great.
It's true. My number 3 best actor of 2022 is Brendan Gleeson for The Banshees of Inisherin. So what I love so much about Gleeson in general, but Gleeson's performance here in particular, like he's playing a character he's just done. Like he's just done.
Yeah.
And we've all, and like obviously this movie will be talked about when we record tomorrow, but like, he's playing a character that is just, again, like he's just, and I feel like at certain points we all have been Colm.
Yeah.
Not necessarily to the lengths that Colm goes to, but I feel like at some point we've all been Colm. We've all reached a point where we're like, whether it's with a person or with a place or with whatever, where we're just like, I can't exist in this straitjacket anymore.
Right.
Like, I have to expand beyond this. I don't have a choice anymore. At certain points, we've all been that. And the way that Brendan Gleeson wears his fatigue and wears his resolve and wears his patience in some cases, but he wears so much of it on his face.
Mm-hmm. Damn, you took my...
Did I?
Yeah, because I said that when he was in Calvary like years ago.
He's a masterful non-verbal actor. He's a masterful verbal actor as well. But as non-verbally, I don't know that anyone can touch Brendan Gleeson in terms of how he wears his performance on his face. So he probably deserves to be higher on this list, but we're going to go with him at number 3 for my best actors of 2022.
Your number 2 and 1 must be bangers. So my number 2 is David Howard Thornton for Terrifier 2.
Wow.
Back on the board again, Robbie.
Wow. Okay. All right.
As Art the Clown.
Right.
I forgot that part.
Okay. Wow. Wow. Okay, let's go.
Okay. Yeah, I like that.
I love this.
Okay. So here's the thing. I had no experience with this guy. I didn't see Terrifier 1, So this came out of left field. Much like Terrifier 2.
Mm.
This guy is, I could be getting this wrong, anybody who's watching this, but I'm pretty sure that this guy's like a trained mime, I think. So Art the Clown doesn't say anything.
Right.
But I think he actually, he kind of modeled it. Well, technically he wasn't the first actor to do art, because there's the short film in the All Hallows Eve, which was a different guy, so. Mm-hmm. But whatever. He does it better. He kind of modeled it a little bit after Chaplin, and he's an actual trained mime or whatever, or at least he really studied it. Mm-hmm. I don't know if he does it for a job or anything, but he's got the right presence. He's kind of tall, even though it's funny when you see Art the Clown and you see the real guy. He's such a goofy. But here's the thing: is it a verbal performance? Literally not at all. But it's the mannerisms that this guy uses to bring Art the Clown to life. And I know that there's makeup and all that stuff, but you can see it in the eyes, you see it in the mouth, you see it in the way that okay, so Art the Clown is a sadistic serial killer.
Right.
But there's a childlike glee to his kills. Thornton does such a good job of bringing that to life, but then also transitioning very abruptly to the seriousness of I'm a kill you.
Right. I'm
gonna kill you real dead. Super dead, the most dead ever, right? For example, it doesn't seem like much out of context of without seeing the movie, But there's a part where he's just butchering this chick, as he does.
Right.
And the mom comes in and sees her butchered daughter, and he's still butchering her because he's messed.
Right.
And he like looks at her, and she's like freaking out and stuff. And he's like, he does this. I don't know if he does it in this scene, but he does this thing too. And then I'll get back to my point where he like laughs silently.
Right.
Like me and Robbie actually do this to
With
each
the
other.
shoulders.
What do we go?
Oh.
And he does it all the time to people where he like laughs, but he's not saying anything.
Right.
But in this scene, she comes in, she's freaking out, and he's like slicing her up some more, and he looks at her, he goes, right? Like he's such like again, I'll say like I said with the director, you can hate the movie, you can love it, but there are certain things that demand your respect, and like Art the Clown is easily one of them, and Thornton is fantastic.
Wow.
In this role. I know it's not the most demanding performance. He's not bawling and stuff.
Right.
But the fact that like he can make you laugh and stuff, and that's partly the writing too and stuff. But he just brings that miming to life super well.
I love that.
So I had to. He was number 3. I moved him up. I did say that like my best actors was kind of meh for me, but then when I think about like my number 1 and 2, I really love.
Right.
And 3 because I love Bale, but number 1 and 2, this one just came out of nowhere for me. Maybe had I seen Terrifier 1, I would have been less surprised and been like, okay, it's still a great performance. He deserves respect, but maybe wouldn't have got there. But it came at me. I was like, wow, this guy was really good as this villain. Find yourself someone to love like Art the Clown loves killing.
Advice from Justin and Tyler in the Movie Awards. My number 2 Best Actor of 2022 is Ralph Fiennes. So I loved what he did in The Menu. And actually, it's funny because we talk about how like Brendan Gleeson is the kind of actor who wears so much of his performance on his face. Ralph Fiennes is an actor that wears so much of his performance on his face, and the way that he plays with and off of Anya Taylor-Joy primarily, and obviously the other kind of cooks in literally cooks in the kitchen. It was an excellent, fantastic performance just on its own. Then, of course, he was also in The Forgiven, which I didn't, unfortunately, get an opportunity to see. But I figured between him and Jessica Chastain, who we figured out was the female lead of the movie, we had to figure that the two of them would play off of each other fairly well. Had I seen that movie, it would only solidify his spot here in number 2. But as it stands, I still feel comfortable putting Ralph Fiennes number 2, mostly for his performance in The Menu.
I have absolutely nothing to add to this except for I'm super happy that he's in this.
Yeah.
Who would have thunk it? Honestly.
In 2022, who would have thunk? Oh, look, right, great year for Ralph Fiennes.
Yeah. So my buddy here thought he should do an audible and actually move Gleason, up one. I'm gonna rectify this because my number 1 is Brendan Gleeson. And Colin Farrell. I ain't separating them.
Okay.
They're Gleason's trying to separate himself in the movie, but I ain't doing it because to me they're still best friends. And I always break the awards.
That's true.
In this way. Actually, this is the second time I've done it to number 1.
Circle of Trust, I almost did this.
Oh, you almost did the Tyler?
Last night I thought about it and I was like, nah, I won't do it.
I would have been so pleased. You would have pulled the Tyler. That sounds dirty.
Maybe that does sound dirty. Anyway, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Before I forget, I will say that Farrell was also in the Batman. So if I had to pick one, I might actually give it to Farrell just on the grounds of because Gleason's a great performance, but that's all he has.
It's a great singular.
At least that I saw.
Yeah.
I don't know if he had anything else. And then Farrell did have a great singular performance, but then also was great as the Penguin. Not best of the year great, but really good.
Mm.
But. So, Farrell's called dull throughout that movie.
Uh-huh.
And he comes across as so dull, but then there's a sympathy there that Farrell's just really good at, apparently, and doing. And then Gleason, the guy's not really likable, and yet I like him. The guy's an asshole.
Yeah.
He's pretentious, in a sense, because he's like, I gotta make this song, I gotta leave my mark on the world, you're too dull, you're out of here, right? So he's not really that likable, but yet I liked him. And the best thing you said was that he wears it on his face. You used it before me. That's all I had. But yeah, so my number one is Farrell and Gleason in the Banshees of Inisherin. I'm grouping them together. I will say that what's his name?
Barry Keogh.
Keogh. Is that it? And the girl, what's her name? Anyway, I won't put you on the spot, but they were also great. This movie had that core four.
Right.
Were actually they were all great. I considered all four of them.
This could have been a straight outta Compton ensemble moment. On to my number one best actor of 2022. Better than Christian Bale. Better than Brendan Gleeson. Better than Paul Dano. Better than Ralph Fiennes. The breakout star of 2022, Austin Butler in Elvis.
Okay.
I am shocked that a Baz Luhrmann movie comes anywhere near awards like this, because normally I would almost exclude them as a matter of principle.
What else did he do?
Baz Luhrmann has done Moulin Rouge.
Right.
He did the Great Gatsby one with Leonardo DiCaprio a few years back. I have a thing, I'm not very pro Baz Luhrmann. Austin Butler took this role as Elvis and basically framed a year and a half to 2 years of his life to become Elvis Presley. And there are moments, as many movies as I've watched, and as silly as this feels like to say, there's moments where you can suspend your disbelief. If you close your eyes, it's Elvis on the screen. And it's insane for somebody who really had not made much of a name for themselves up until this point to not only come onto the scene with, this is one of the great, this is, a great debut performance. No, this to me is the singular best performance for a male in 2022. Austin Butler in Elvis, coming from nowhere, straight out of nowhere, and becomes the number one best actor of 2022 in Elvis.
That's a great pick. I have no opinion on it because I didn't watch Elvis, but that's awesome because I never would have seen that coming.
No, and now it's getting a lot of award buzz, which I didn't expect.
But from you, I never would have seen it coming.
Right.
I don't care about them. I care about you.
I care about the awards that matter, which are these ones. No, it's true. I never would have thought it would have come up either. But the more I sat and I really thought about the male performances this year, I was like, that's the one that. Even with the recency bias of having just watched Inisherin last night, I was like, that's the one. That's the one that stands out in my brain. There we have, folks, our best actors of 2022. The combo of Colin Farrell and Brendan Gleeson for Tyler, and Austin Butler for yours truly. And now it is time on the next video where we turn the attention to the ladies, our best actresses of 2022. That's coming up right around the bend.